Toronto, for the first time in their first-round series against the Maple Leafs, it looks like the Bruins are a little shaken, somewhat rattled, and more than a little frustrated. The Bruins' top line was held off the scoresheet for the third time in the best-of-7 series in Boston's 3-1 loss in Game 6 at the Air Canada Centre Monday night, which tied the series at 3-3 and set up Game 7 Wednesday at TD Garden. Not coincidentally, the Bruins are 0-3 in the series when getting 0-point production from Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. DJ Bean Bruins created a monster that could end their season, but this was markedly different from the first couple of Boston losses in the series, where it seemed like Toronto was basically holding on for dear life. In those games, it felt like goalie Freddie Andersen and the Maple Leafs managed to escape rather than accomplish anything sustained or significant against a Boston attack that felt relentless and inevitable. This time, a stouter Leafs defense blocked 21 shots and battled every step of the way with speed and admirable tenacity. And, of course, Toronto received another standout effort from Andersen, who seems to be getting into the heads of the Boston players, especially Marchand, Bergeron and Pastrnak. They still managed to squeeze off 26 shot attempts and a half-dozen scoring chances, but by the third period, Marchand and Pastrnak both seemed to be feeling the pressure of not scoring. They began doing things they hadn't previously done in the series, getting overly fancy with a lot of their moves in the offensive zone and turning the puck over rather than pushing with precision and hard work toward the net. "That's playoff hockey," said Marchand. "Regardless of what happened tonight, or any other game, you've got to let it go. You just need to worry about the next one. We'll focus on that and let this one go." They just kept coming. They're a good team. They've been resilient all year, so you've got to give them a lot of credit. If anybody told us at the beginning of the year that we'd be in a Game 7 in the first round at home, I think we would have taken it. It's tough given the position that we're in, but we're just going to look forward to the next game. That's all that we can control. Whatever happened in the last 6 games doesn't really matter anymore. We're going to be fighting for our lives, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It sure didn't seem like Marchand was having much fun in Game 6. He couldn't hang on to a loose puck in the D-zone slot late in the second period, and the sequence ended with Mitch Marner snapping home a backhander that broke a 1-1 tie and put Toronto ahead to stay, whether it was forcing plays that weren't there, overpassing at points when a simple shot would have been better, or missing the net too often while trying to be too fine picking corners against Andersen. The frustration showed for Marchand and his linemates. That's not a good look for a top-heavy team like the Bruins, which relies on those top forwards to score for playoff success. After piling up 20 points in the first couple of games in the series, the top line has no points and a -16+- rating in the 3 losses. Maybe there was a little bit of frustration, but you need to go back to the drawing board and find the character that we've shown all year, said Bergeron. Now it's all about that one game. You can look back all you want, but now that's where you're at and that's the position that we're in. You have to prevail and be good. The bottom line is that we need to bear down and be better. It's as simple as that. It's how it should be. We have some amazing young players that are in this locker room, and I know they're going to step up. That's the approach that we're going to have, and that's it. There's not much more to be said other than we need to be better. The question now facing the Bruins is a deep, difficult one. Should Bruce Cassidy perhaps break up the top line, making the Bruins attack a little less imbalanced and top-heavy? Should he perhaps move Pastrnak down to the David Krejci line while moving David Backes, Rick Nash or Danton Heinen up with Bergeron and Marchand? Should he insert Ryan Donato into the series for a spark of offense and perhaps try him on his off wing with Bergeron and Marchand in a move that might spark them with a different kind of energy? By the end of Monday night's Game 6, the Bruins' top players almost looked like the weight of carrying Boston's offense had finally begun to wear on them. That's a dynamic that needs to be fixed quickly. Home ice, a couple of adjustments, and the immediacy of a winner-take-all Game 7 might do the trick. If not, that weight on the collective shoulders of Bergeron, Marchand and Pastrnak will be the thing that ultimately drags the Bruins down. Toronto, the Bruins have always done things the hard way in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that often means pushing playoff series all the way to a Game 7. That's exactly what the Bees have done again in their best-of-7, first-round series with the Toronto Maple Leafs after dropping a 3-1 decision in Game 6 at the Air Canada Centre on Monday night. The Bruins certainly can look back with regret that they were up 3-1 in this series with a couple of chances to close it out before it got to this point, and even further back at the commanding lead they had after a couple of blowout wins at home to start things out. Caps they thought it was going to be easier than it was before Toronto goalie Freddie Anderson stole a couple of games and before the Toronto defense managed to hold Patrice Bergeron's line down for 3 games while also scoring goals with them on the ice. More Haggerty, Bruins top line is bottoming out now. It's all about a winner-take-all Game 7 on Wednesday night, where none of the rest of that matters and the Bruins are still the better team despite the way things have played out in the past couple of games. Zdeno Chara will be playing in his 10th Game 7 with the Bruins and he'll be leading his black and gold group with the knowledge that he's been there and done it before. The same with Bergeron, who will also be playing in his 10th Game 7. He is really the heart and soul player that everybody knows will be bringing his best into that do-or-die contest and will be leading a wave of youngsters in their first experience with it as well. Even David Pastrnak, who's viewed as a tried-and-true 21-year-old veteran at this point, will be experiencing a Game 7 for the first time in his NHL career when he takes the ice against the Leafs. It's always how it should be. When you've lived it, you want to share that experience, said Bergeron. We have some amazing young players in this locker room and I know they're going to step up. That's the approach that we have. Everyone just needs to go out there and play, and step up their game up and rely on everybody else to do the same. Do your job, I guess, is kind of the cliche, but that's how you have to approach a Game 7. Brad Marchand hasn't played in as many Game 7s as Bergeron or Chara, and his time in those games has led to very mixed results. Marchand scored memorably in the Game 7 win over the Vancouver Canucks in the 2011 Stanley Cup Final and was a big factor in that game and teamed with Bergeron for the game winner versus the Leafs in the 2013 first round. But Marchand also self-destructed in the Game 7 loss to the Montreal Canadiens in the second round of 2014 when he took a penalty for giving Carey Price a snow job on a quick hockey stop at the net and has never really been a dominant player in those instances as he is so much of the rest of the time. DJ Bean, Bruins created a monster that could end their season. With that in mind, Marchand is trying to take more of an even-handed approach to Game 7 while knowing that his team's fate rests very much in the hands of his line. In the Bruins' 3 losses, Bergeron, Marchand and Pastrnak have been shut out with a -16 rating while getting contained by Toronto. The Bruins' agitator and leading scorer knows none of that stuff matters now, however, and it's all about the one game still sitting in front of them. That's one big thing that experience will teach you in the playoffs. What happened yesterday doesn't matter anymore and it's all about that present moment while there's still playoff life still left to be lived in the series. It's those kinds of lessons where the Bruins should have a massive experience advantage over a young, inexperienced Toronto team that really hasn't been there before, but at the end of the day, it's all about how the players, both veteran and inexperienced, operate on the ice under the winner-take-all pressure. The Bruins will host the Game 7 in a building where they've been extremely good this season, the 5th of August 28 in the regular season, and where they should have the confidence that things will tilt back in their direction. That's playoff hockey. Regardless of what's happened tonight, or any other game, we're going to let it go. It doesn't matter. We just have to worry about the next one. We'll focus on that and let this one go, said Marchand. If anybody would have told us at the start of the year that we'd be going into a Game 7 in the first round at home, we would have taken it. Obviously, it's tough given the position that we're in, but you look forward to that next game. It's the only thing that we can control. Whatever has happened in the last 6 games doesn't mean anything. We're going to be out there fighting for our lives and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge. They're a great team and they've played really well in this series. It's gonna be fun and we're looking forward to it. It might be a challenge for the veteran Bruins to convey the fun of a one-game scenario where their season could come to a sudden end, but that's where the leadership comes in for Bergeron, Marchand, Chara and David Krejci, who have been there many times before in Game 7s for better and for worse. Gold star, Mitch Marner has been a problem for the Bruins during the regular season, and he's proving to be a problem once again in the playoffs. The Leafs forward scored the game-winning goal in the second period when he jumped on a Brad Marchand turnover in the D-zone, and snapped a backhanded bid past Tuukka Rask to give Toronto a 2-1 lead. It was part of a 2 points, plus 2 night for Marner in his 16:44 of ice time where played strong, solid hockey, and stayed patient until Boston's top line made a misstep that they could jump all over at the end of the period. Otherwise Marner mostly stayed out of the fray in the game and simply played a strong two-way game that was easily their best defensive effort of the series. Marner now has 2 goals and 8 points against the Bees in the 6 games played thus far. Black Eye David Pastrnak just wasn't good in this game. He missed 3 shots on net, had another 6 blocked and finished a -1 with 1 shot on net in 1944 of ice time while clearly looking frustrated at what was going on around him. Both Pasternak and Brad Marchand were pulling out overly fancy moves, overpassing and missing the net with their shot attempts in a clear sign that Freddie Andersen is beginning to get in their heads. If that doesn't cease quickly in Game 7, then the Bruins could be in a world of hurt with a big chance to take a nice step this season and move on to at least the second round if not getting any further than it. But right now the Bruins' top line has gone from looking like a well-oiled machine to looking like a sputtering jalopy in need of some service at the shop. Turning point, the Bruins took over the game in the first period with their puck possession and usual dominance from their top line, and looked really ready to roll when Jake DeBrusk scored little more than a minute into the second period. But the Bruins allowed Toronto to score right back 35 seconds later, and that seemed to really knock the Bruins off their pins for most of the rest of the game. It was a long rebound of a Nazem Kadri shot that was kicked out by Tuukka Rask, and then went right to William Nylander for the rebound score. The Bruins were fortunate that another goal was overturned due to goalie interference that would have quickly made it a 2-1 game, but it was clear the Bruins never really controlled the game again after the 2 quick goals at the start of the second period. Honorable mention, Jake DeBrusk had the only goal for the Bruins, so he earns a little credit in a 3-1 loss. DeBrusk now has 3 goals in the series and was on the spot firing home a shot after a David Krejci offensive zone face-off win that gave Boston's second line their 3rd even-strength goal of the series. DeBrusk also finished as one of only 2 players, along with Tommy Wingels, that ended the night with a positive +- rating, and had 3 hits while playing fast and strong along the boards and in front of the net. There are a few other young players that haven't looked particularly adept at the playoff style of play in this series for Boston, but DeBrusk has thoroughly looked like he belongs since the drop of the puck in Game 1. By the numbers, -16, the combined +- rating for Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand and David Pasternak in the 3 Bruins losses, where they've also been kept off the score sheet by the Leafs defense. Quote to note, maybe there is a little bit of frustration, but you've got to go back to the drawing board and find the character we've shown all year. Now it's about one game, Patrice Bergeron, on battling the frustration of losing 2 straight and instead getting ready for a Game 7 showdown on Wednesday night.